Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch.
Rob Drell.
And today we're going to recap this past Saturday's inaugural episode of the Premier Boxing Champions, which was the first boxing telecast on network television in 30 years. And on this card, we had John Molina Jr. taking on Adrian Broner. We also had Robert Guerrero versus Keith Thurman. Then on NBC Sports, they had Arturo Reyes and Abner Mares. So we're going to start with Mares Reyes. We talked a little bit about that in the pre-fight video. Then we'll go on to Broner-Molina and then Thurman-Guerrero. Take it away, Rob.
So with this one, with Reyes, I guess it was supposed to be somewhat of a showcase fight for Abner Mares. And what it did was, I mean, it got Mares rounds, but he should have had him out of there. He should have had him out of there. He's becoming one-dimensional, or I mean, he's just not really showing the necessary improvements of like really put a stamp at this weight class, and that was at 126, which I really think he's too small for. And this guy was not bigger than him, so I'm trying to figure out what is it that he's not doing. Well, he's not. It's almost like he's losing accuracy with his shots. I mean, he's not picking his shots. And he's just engaging, I'm not going to say stupidly, but he's not really engaging in a point where he could maximize, what he can do. As opposed to, I'm going out here and we'll make it an exciting fight.
Yeah, I think that's what he wants to do more so than like actually put on, like he wants to just put on an exciting fight rather than like put on like a performance where it looks like he's showing improvements and working on things and showing growth as a fighter. Maybe he's grown as far as he can. Who knows? But he wants to get in there with Santa Cruz. I think he mentioned Rigondeaux, but he really wants Johnny Gonzalez because Johnny Gonzalez knocked him out and took his belt. But I think he says that Santa Cruz is like a more fan-friendly fight, and that's the one that the public wants to see. So he wants to go for that one, then get back at Gonzalez. So we'll see how that works out. Let's move on to the next fight, which was Adrian Broner versus John Molina Jr. And in this one, we thought that Broner would get tagged a few times. He did, just a few times, because Molina looked like he was fighting through some quicksand in there. And they mentioned during the broadcast that he had lost 2 key figures in his life, and I think that really played a part in his performance because he did way too much waiting for, and he just allowed Adrian Broner to be first, to get off whenever he felt like it, and he never really crowded his space like he did when, and he didn't let his hands go the way he did like when he fought Matisse, and even the opportunities that he took against like Mickey Bay and Hank Lundy, like he wasn't that guy. May have been beaten out of him,
right? And
it may be that also from the loss to DeMarco, the loss to Matisse, and those fights that he was losing, like in Bay and Hank Lundy, he was getting beaten those fights. He just happened to catch lightning in the bottom, knocked them out. When you fight that type of style, you don't really last too long. So that might have been a factor. It could have been that he was mystified by the speed and mystique of Adrian Broner, because Adrian Broner was very fast in there. He looked really sharp, and we'll get to him in a second. But he just didn't have it tonight. Yeah. Molina, it just wasn't there for him. He, for some reason, expected Broner to just stand in his face and want to bang with him, when that's not what Broner does.
Exactly.
I don't know. Like, I guess they had some pre-fight thing where they were like, I'm going to stand there. That's foolish. He wasn't going to do that. He probably told you that because you wanted to hear it. But even if he did, his shots were so wide and so telegraphed that Broner saw him coming a mile away, and he still got hit by a couple of them. But, you can't miss every single shot. I mean, you can't dodge every single shot. So it was a decent performance from Broner. He won just about every round, maybe like 1 or 2 you could have given to Molina. And before I go more into Broner, I let Rob say what he wants to say.
Well, no, I mean, you basically covered it all. I mean, I think tonight he just didn't have that gear where it's kind of like you can't think anymore. You just have to go for it. And that's where he was with those last fights with Lundy and Bay. You just got to go for it. I mean, you got to step on the gas. And even if it's not the prettiest fight, you got to crowd his space. I mean, we all know that with Broner, not taking anything away from him, but if you can get in his face, stay in his chest, and make him, and then basically rough him up. I mean, you can frustrate him or at least get in there to catch him. I'm not saying
have some success.
Yeah, you can have some success, but in this one, Broner just looked like he did whatever he wanted to do. He didn't quite use the shoulder roll or attempt to use the shoulder roll as much. I think Mike Stafford had him fighting a little bit more conventional. But you can always tell when he's kind of switching back and forth between offense and defense because his hands are up when he's ready to attack. And when he goes into defense, he's on that back foot, kind of leaning back, doing his rendition of the shoulder roll. Never said it was correct, but that's his thing.
Right. We did a video on that a long time
ago. Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't too impressed with Broner's performance. That was a guy he should have turned up the heat and got him out of there.
Mm-hmm.
But in all of his fights beyond 135, he's starting to show that he really doesn't have that power to really get these guys respect. He did hurt Maidana in like the last round of their fight, which was a good thing. But other than that, like there was no kind of like even when he fought Paulie Malignaggi, it never looked like he ever hurt him. He fought a Carlos Molina as well. Didn't look like he ever hurt him. He did drop Emmanuel Taylor,
right?
But that was more of a balance thing than him actually hurting him. He caught him squared up. So I don't think he really has that power in those higher weights like he did down in 130 and 135 when he was outweighing those guys by 15, 20 pounds plus.
And he came in, what, at 160?
Close to 160. He was like 157, 158, something around that.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't really take care of himself too well outside of the ring. And those are going to be the things that are going to lead to him not quite being the best guy out there. Maybe more along the lines of Andre Berto, where you'll see this guy's got a ton of talent, and he should be one of those top guys, but he's just not going to be there.
Yeah.
I think once he gets to those upper echelon guys, they're either going to walk right through him or they're going to outdo him in the boxing category. Like he's got the speed and accuracy, but it's just something that mental makeup isn't there for him to really go to that top level.
So, I mean, we'll see where it goes from here. He might fight I doubt I was going to say he might fight the winner or the loser of the Garcia-Peterson fight.
Yeah, I think they're both going to end up at 147.
He can always take on Matisse.
If he gets past Provodnikov.
He can always fight Provodnikov if he get past Matisse.
Yeah.
He can always take on
Jesse Vargas.
He's
got a belt.
Yeah, he can always get a belt at 140. So I guess it just depends on where we go and
it really depends on what happens with Danny Garcia. Like if he leaves, that's 3 belts that gets freed up. He can probably fight somebody for a vacant belt and become a titleist again, or maybe even de-champion the division, which would be a huge feather in his cap. But yeah, all the guys that are really, really, really good at 140 are starting to look at going to 147. So the division is his for the taking.
But Terrence Crawford is coming up as well.
Never mind. Yeah, that's going to be... He don't want no parts of that guy. No. I'll say that now. Let's move on to the main event. In the main event, we had Robert the Ghost Guerrero taking on Keith One-Time Thurman in a 12-round bout for Thurman's welterweight belt, because Floyd has the welterweight belt that Thurman has as well. WBA, they just give out titles to everybody. As long as you paying them that money, they give you a belt.
Sanctioning fees.
Yeah. But, be that as it may, we got a pretty good fight. In our pre-fight, we We picked Thurman to win. We picked Guerrero to come on late, give him some problems later on in the fight. Pretty much got that fight. Now, a lot of people were getting mixed reviews about Thurman's performance. A lot of people didn't like what he did later on in the fight. I personally didn't like what he did early on in the fight.
And let's not, forget that he did have that hematoma on the side of his head. So
yeah, those things are very distracting. But I think he overall had a pretty good performance. He's still a guy with a ton of potential, a ton to learn. But let's go into the meat and potatoes of that fight. In the first few rounds, you could tell he was really trying to get Guerrero out of there.
that's right.
Really hard. So much so that he completely forgot about his defense. And had Guerrero been a little bit sharper, because he caught him a few times countering him when he came in with his hands down, just winging hard punches. Had Guerrero been a little bit sharper, maybe a little bit more powerful, we might have had a real fight on our hands, because we know Thurman's tough. Guerrero showed his toughness. I mean, we already knew he was tough already. But as Thurman saw that he wasn't going to get Guerrero out of there as easily, he started to back up, started to pick his spots a little bit more. Still hit him with the power, but he decided to deliver it in a little bit different ways. He was being a little bit smarter in his approach. And I like that part of Thurman over the early round where he was just going for the kill.
Yeah, but there was a few times in the later rounds where he did have Guerrero hurt, aside from the knockdown.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's very patient, but he was a little bit impatient. I believe it was in
The ninth round?
the ninth round, then the last round?
Last round he was almost on his bike for the most part.
It was
Might have been the 10th.
Yeah, because he just had him hurt, and it's kind of like you pulling that jab out there, and you had this here, and then you almost telegraphing. I mean, you really like cocking it back. I mean, you can't do that. Just throw the punch. Let the knockout come to you, because you had him hurt. You don't have to rush it. There was plenty of time in the round.
You know who he reminded me of in this fight? He reminded me of Miguel Cotto. You know how in some fights, Miguel Cotto, he will walk to you and he will try to decimate you. And if he doesn't do it by like the 5th round, he gets on his bike and he starts to pick his spots a little more. Like you saw that against like Lovemore Endo. You saw it against Shane Mosley. He did it against Manny Pacquiao. He did it against Floyd Mayweather. It's kind of like almost a retreat. He also did it against Margarito.
Yeah, he did.
Twice. And it's like if he can't just blast you out of there, then he's like, all right, I need to save myself and not go so hard. So it seems that Thurman may have to work on a little bit of stamina so he can keep on delivering that power. But that power carried all the way through the fight, because like we said, he dropped Guerrero hard in the 9th round. But Guerrero didn't quit. His conditioning is on point. Unfortunately, he's just not the fastest guy.
Right.
And he's not the most accurate guy. He's one of those guys that'll rough you up in order to win a fight. So he was just outclassed on this stage. He could probably beat some of like other guys. I would even probably pick him against like a Devin Alexander or something like that.
Yeah.
But that would be a good fight for him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. As far as Thurman, I'm thinking like an Amir Khan, something like that.
Maybe the winner of Porter
and what's that guy's name? Roberto Garcia.
No.
They fighting next week.
No. Jose de Lopez.
Oh, he's fighting Berto.
He's fighting Berto.
Right.
So yeah, it is Roberto Ortiz. So I can see him fighting. Yeah, you can see him fighting.
Any of those guys would be a good fight for Thurman. Keep on upping the level of competition. From now he's already fought a few former world champs. He's just got to keep that going and then start trying to unify those belts, because Floyd's not going to be around long, and neither is Manny. So those belts are going to free up for those young guys to come up and take.
That's right.
So we're looking forward to what all of these guys have coming forward in the future. Like we said, if there's welterweight in the name, it's a deep division. There's plenty of fights to be made, and we're going to sit down and watch and enjoy every single one of them. And I think you will too. That's it for this episode, guys. Hope you enjoyed the information. You guys got anything you want to say, you can hit us up in the comments section. You can follow us on Facebook, Capital of Combat, Google Plus, same name. You can hit us up on our email, capitalofcombat@gmail.com. Any questions, hit us up on any of those forums. We get you in the combat mailbag. If you have not subscribed, do so you can catch all of our varieties of videos and keep up to us, especially as we get closer towards the granddaddy of them all, Mayweather Pacquiao.
Damn straight.
So we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Y'all have a good one. Peace.
This is round one, and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire, I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage, keep thinking that it's a game. I kick crime, hurricane. I told them I don't play, I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.